able to switch off resolution work, and that shouldn't change. So,
This is the story of one of the world's finest surgeons. He is known as the great medical innovator, who does all of his operations to classical music. Meet Ben Karsonu, the pediatric neurosurgeon, known to colleagues and patients alike as the surgeon with gifted hands. He gives dying children a second chance at life and achieves where other doctors have failed or given up hope. As a brain surgeon, he routinely performs some of the most complicated and dangerous operations imaginable. But imagination is what sets Dr. Karsonu apart. In the field of neurosurgery, Ben Karsonu is an inspiration to other doctors because of his relentless effort to find new and better ways to operate. In 1986, the medical community was shocked when he successfully performed brain surgery on a baby still in the womb. But that didn't get nearly as much attention as the 1987 separation of the Binder Siamese twins who were joined at the head. Nicknamed Gentle Ben because of his calm and compassionate demeanor, he is best known for taking on surgical challenges that other physicians would not even consider. One of his specialties is children with craniofacial deformities. Dr. Karsonu routinely operates on patients that are considered high risk. These grateful children would not be alive today had Dr. Karsonu conformed to the popular medical consensus. This reunion brought together 22 of the 26 children on which he and colleagues performed a hemispherectomy, an operation that actually removes half of the brain. This surgery is done on children with uncontrollable seizures. Hemispherectomies have been done in years past, but were never successful enough to gain approval as a viable surgical alternative. Karsonu took the chance of resurrecting the procedure because he felt current technology, along with skilled surgery, would make it work. He was right. The first operation done in 1985 was a glowing success. Since then, hemispherectomies have become a more popular and commonplace surgery across America. If performed on adults, a hemispherectomy will result in severe disability. But because a child's brain is still developing, the remaining hemisphere can frequently compensate and take on the functions of the other half. Normally, there is a permanent weakness on the side of the body that is controlled by the missing hemisphere, but 90% of the children are functionally improved, and the majority are seizure-free.
She started having a seizure right before the doctors took her, and the seizure went on for about 2 minutes, and they waited for it to stop. And once the seizure stopped, they took her in, and that's the last seizure that we've ever seen her have.
When Diane and Jean Wagaspak brought their 1-year-old daughter to Ben Karsonu, Lisa was in a desperate condition. In spite of heavy medication, Lisa suffered from 50 to 60 seizures a day. She was under constant nursing care, unable to suck or even hold her head up. When Dr. Karsonu recommended a hemispherectomy, the Wagaspaks did not hesitate.
I mean, she was going to die. I mean, there's no doubt that I don't think she'd be here today. And I think he takes situations like that and says, I've got to do something. I've got to try something. And he's willing to take the chances where you'll find some doctors that are going to say, I'm not going to take that chance.
Well, I kind of developed the, I guess you might call it, innovative mindset by asking myself the question, can something be done better? I'm not a maverick. I mean, I know what other people have said, and I believe in history because I think there's no reason for reinventing the wheel and making mistakes that other people have already proven are mistakes. But by knowing that, and by, I think, having a good, solid foundation of knowledge, you can then conceptualize what the problems are and ask the question, is there a better way or another way to solve this problem? That's something I guess my mother instilled in me when I was a youngster, because she was always saying, if anybody can do it, you can do it better.
This ghetto in Detroit, Michigan, is where Ben Karsonu grew up. Ben took his wife Candy to his old home to reminisce about his childhood. Ben's father left when he was 7. His mother, who only had a third-grade education, was rarely home, having to work 2 and 3 jobs at a time to support her 2 sons. By age 10, Ben was a boy in trouble. As an unmotivated student with terrible grades, he was at the bottom of his class. Ben accepted his schoolmates' nickname of Class Dummy. Today the Karsons live in this home outside of Baltimore. Ben now has 3 sons of his own. His mother, Sonia Karsonu, is the real story behind Karson's escape from poverty. She was determined to never give up on Ben and his brother Curtis until they reached their full potential.
My sole purpose was for them to get an education so they can get a decent job, because I could not find one without an education. And then I just really asked God to show me a way that I could motivate them. And then this plan came to me. Let them learn the timetables. I had heard that. And then I said, okay, we're going to learn the timetables together. And so the second day came back, I said, how you done on the timetables? And so Ben wanted to go outdoors and play. He said, Mother, you are a mean mother. It's impossible. Can't nobody learn those timetables. Can't nobody in the world learn those timetables. I said, well, okay, you can figure out. You're smart. You can figure out how to learn them. And so let's say that you are going to not play until you learn the timetables. And a very short time he learned them, all the way from 2 through 12.
You know, we were the kind of kids who wanted to come home and play outside until it was dark, and then when it was dark, go in and watch TV until it was time to go to bed, and then that was that. And,
each month, Dr. Karsonu takes time from his busy schedule to speak to young people. To these students, Ben Karsonu is not only a hero, but also a living example of the power of determination and education.
It dawned upon her what she should do. She said we would be able to watch 2 or 3 pre-selected TV programs during the week, every week. And with all of that extra time, we had to go to the library, check out 2 books, read them, and submit to her a book report. See, my mother was a very, very persistent person. Well, interestingly enough, after a few weeks, I began to enjoy reading those books. I didn't like it much at first, but, you know, the books I started reading initially were about animals. I loved animals. Pretty soon I started reading about plants, and then I started reading about rocks and minerals. And I really got fascinated with rocks. And one day we were in science class. I was still in the 5th grade. And the science teacher held up a dark, glassy rock. And he said, does anybody know what this is? And, you know, I didn't put my hand up because I figured one of the smart kids would answer the question. And I looked around and nobody had their hand up. And I said, well, I knew what it was. You know, I'd been reading about this stuff, so I put my hand up. And everybody looked. Is that Karsonu with his hand up? You know, the teacher looked, they said. And the students were all, you know, they were taking in a big breath. They were getting ready for a hilarious laugh. They knew it was going to be funny what I had to say. And I said, that's obsidian. And the teacher said, that's right. It is obsidian. And then I went on to explain how obsidian was formed by lava, and how when the lava flowed down to the water, it was super cooled and the elements consolidated and they formed a glass-like appearance. And everybody was spellbound as I was talking about it. And for the first time, you know, I could see in my classmates' eyes a look of admiration instead of a look of disdain for this stupid kid. You know, this was a totally new experience for me. And I said, I like this. I can deal with this. And at that point, I couldn't get enough to read, because I said, now why can't I read about history and civics and science and math and everything else? And I started reading every book I could get my hands on. And within a year and a half, I'd gone from the bottom of the class to the top of the class.
With his newly found love for knowledge and a goal of becoming a doctor, Ben Karsonu appeared unstoppable. He won a scholarship to Yale. After graduation, he went to the University of Michigan Medical